Have you ever noticed that some men don't chase women, yet women seem naturally drawn to them? It's strange, isn't it? They aren't always the richest. They aren't always the best looking. They aren't constantly trying to impress anyone. Yet somehow, high value women respect them, pursue them, and stay emotionally invested. Meanwhile, countless men do everything they believe women want. They give endless attention. They reply instantly. They sacrifice their own priorities. They become available at every moment. And somehow, they're the ones who get ignored. Why? Because most men have been taught the exact opposite of what actually creates attraction. Most men believe love is earned through pleasing. High value women often choose men who know when to say no. That sounds backwards. But here's where it gets interesting. A woman's attraction isn't built only by kindness. It's built by emotional security, confidence, and respect. And respect doesn't come from giving away your standards, it comes from protecting them. Most men never realize this. Every interaction is silently testing one question. Does this man have boundaries, or will he abandon himself just to keep me interested? She may never ask it directly. She may never even be consciously aware she's asking it. But psychology tells us that people naturally trust those who value themselves enough to protect their own time, emotions, and identity. Think about it. Have you ever met someone who agreed with everything you said? Someone who never challenged you, never had their own opinion, never had plans outside of you. At first, it might feel flattering. Eventually, it feels predictable, and predictability without self-respect slowly kills attraction. Pay close attention because this changes everything. The strongest relationships aren't built by one person constantly proving their love. They're built by two people respecting each other's limits. That's why the men women secretly admire often appear calm. They don't argue for approval. They don't panic over delayed messages. They don't desperately explain themselves. Their confidence comes from something deeper. They know exactly where they stand, and that certainty creates emotional safety. Ironically, the less they try to control the relationship, the more attractive they become. Now, here's something even more surprising. Many men mistake boundaries for playing games. They're completely different. Playing games is manipulation. Boundaries are clarity. One creates confusion. The other creates respect, and high-value women can sense the difference almost immediately. Imagine two men. The first cancels everything whenever she calls. The second politely says, "I'd love to see you tomorrow. Tonight I've already committed to something important." Which man seems more valuable? The answer has nothing to do with availability. It has everything to do with self-worth, because when a man respects his own life, people naturally begin respecting it too. This is why chasing rarely works, and why confidence isn't something you say. It's something your boundaries quietly communicate. But here's the mistake almost every man makes. They think having boundaries means becoming cold, detached, emotionless. That couldn't be further from the truth. The most attractive men aren't emotionally unavailable. They're emotionally stable. There's a massive difference, and the first boundary we're about to reveal proves exactly why. At first, it seems incredibly simple, but once you understand the psychology behind it, you'll never approach relationships the same way again, because boundary number one changes everything. Most men believe attraction grows by giving more attention, more reassurance, more availability. But female psychology often works differently. High-value women are not searching for a man who revolves around them. They're looking for a man who has built a meaningful life that they're excited to become part of. That's the difference most men never realize. The first powerful boundary is this. Boundary one, never make her the center of your entire life. This doesn't mean you don't care. It means your purpose existed before she arrived, and it will continue whether she stays or leaves. There's something incredibly attractive about a man whose identity isn't dependent on another person's approval. Imagine two scenarios. A man meets an amazing woman. Within days, he starts canceling plans with friends, he skips the gym, his hobbies disappear. Every free moment revolves around texting her. At first, she enjoys the attention, but after a while, something begins to feel heavy. Without realizing it, She starts feeling responsible for his happiness. That responsibility slowly turns attraction into pressure. Now imagine another man. He enjoys spending time with her, but he still keeps his commitments. He works toward his goals. He values his health. He makes time for family and friends. When she's with him, she feels like she's joining a full, exciting life, not becoming the only thing holding it together. Which man seems more emotionally secure? Exactly. Confidence isn't about acting tough. It's about proving through your actions that your happiness doesn't depend on someone else's validation. But here's where it gets interesting. Women often say they want attention, and they do, but healthy attention, not obsession. The difference is enormous. Obsession seeks reassurance. Healthy attention comes from genuine desire. One feels exhausting, the other feels exciting. Pay close attention because this changes everything. People naturally value what already has value. When your life has purpose, discipline, and direction, your attention becomes meaningful because it's not given away endlessly. Now let's move to the second boundary, one that quietly destroys attraction when ignored. Boundary 2, never chase validation. This is where countless men unknowingly lose respect. Every compliment they give carries an invisible question. Do you like me now? Every favor secretly asks, am I enough yet? High value women notice this faster than most men imagine. Psychologically, confidence communicates certainty, neediness communicates doubt, and people instinctively respond to certainty. Think about a job interview. Who appears more attractive? The candidate desperately trying to convince everyone they're qualified, or the one calmly presenting their strengths without begging for approval? Relationships work surprisingly similarly. A confident man doesn't need to advertise his worth. His behavior speaks for him. That doesn't mean becoming arrogant. Arrogance demands admiration. Confidence doesn't need it. Imagine she disagrees with you during dinner. Many men immediately backtrack. They change their opinion just to avoid tension. But a man with healthy boundaries simply smiles and says, "That's an interesting perspective. I see it differently." No anger, no argument, no insecurity, just calm certainty. That emotional stability is incredibly rare, and rarity creates attraction. Most men think women are testing intelligence. Often, they're observing emotional strength. Can you remain yourself when someone disagrees with you? Or do you immediately abandon your own identity? The answer reveals far more than words ever could. But don't celebrate yet, because the next boundary is even more powerful. In fact, it's the one that determines whether she sees you as a man she respects or simply another man she's comfortable taking for granted. And what happens next may surprise you. By now, you've probably noticed something surprising. None of these boundaries are about controlling women. They're about controlling yourself. And that's exactly what makes them powerful. Most men spend years trying to figure out female behavior while ignoring the one thing they can actually master: their own mindset. But here's where it gets interesting. High-value women often aren't looking for a perfect man. They're looking for a man whose actions consistently match his words. That brings us to the third boundary. Boundary 3, never tolerate consistent disrespect. Every relationship has disagreements. People have bad days, misunderstandings happen, but there's a huge difference between an occasional mistake and a repeated pattern of disrespect. Many men ignore this difference because they're afraid of losing someone they care about. So they excuse rude behavior. They laugh off insults. They accept broken promises. They tell themselves, she's just stressed. She didn't mean it. It'll get better. Sometimes it does. But if disrespect becomes normal, attraction slowly disappears for both people. Think about a man named David. Whenever he made plans with his girlfriend, she repeatedly canceled at the last minute without explanation. Instead of calmly addressing it, he kept accepting it because he feared confrontation. Months later, resentment replaced affection. Now imagine another man facing the same situation. He calmly says, I enjoy spending time with you, but reliability matters to me. If we're making plans, I'd like us both to respect them. Notice what he didn't do. He didn't yell. He didn't threaten to leave. He didn't play games. He simply communicated his standard. That quiet confidence is incredibly attractive because it signals emotional maturity. Most men never realize this. People often treat you according to the standards you consistently enforce. If you constantly accept behavior that hurts you, you're silently teaching others what you're willing to tolerate. And over time, that becomes the relationship's new normal. Now let's move to the fourth boundary. Boundary 4, don't feel obligated to fix every problem. Many men believe their value comes from solving everything. If she's stressed, they rush to rescue her. If she's upset, they immediately search for solutions. If she's frustrated, they assume it's now their responsibility. But female psychology is often more nuanced. Sometimes a woman doesn't need a hero. She needs someone who can simply listen without trying to take control. Imagine she comes home after a difficult day at work. Before she finishes explaining what happened, you interrupt with advice. You should quit. You should tell your boss this. Here's what I'd do. Your intentions are good, but she may feel unheard. Now imagine a different response. You maintain eye contact. You let her finish. Then you calmly say, "That sounds frustrating. I can understand why you'd feel that way." Only after listening do you ask, "Would you like my opinion, or did you just need someone to hear you?" That simple question demonstrates emotional intelligence. It shows confidence because you're not rushing to prove your usefulness, you're respecting her ability to handle her own life. Ironically, that often makes her value your perspective even more. Pay close attention because this changes everything. Being emotionally supportive doesn't mean carrying someone else's emotional weight. Healthy relationships involve support, not emotional dependency. Now for the fifth boundary. Boundary 5. Protect your emotional composure. This may be one of the most overlooked traits of genuinely confident men. Life will test you. Relationships will test you. Sometimes you'll receive criticism. Sometimes you'll face rejection. Sometimes misunderstandings will happen despite your best efforts. The question isn't whether challenges will come. The question is how you respond. Imagine she doesn't text back for several hours. One man sends 5 follow-up messages. Are you okay? Did I do something wrong? Why are you ignoring me? His imagination fills every moment of silence with fear. Another man notices the delay, then continues with his day. He finishes his workout. He focuses on work. He meets a friend for coffee. When she eventually replies, he responds naturally, without punishment, passive-aggressive comments, or emotional drama. What's the difference? The first man let uncertainty control him. The second man trusted himself enough not to create problems that didn't exist. That's emotional composure. And emotional composure is magnetic because it creates a sense of stability. People feel safe around those who remain calm under pressure, but don't mistake calmness for weakness. Sometimes the strongest response is silence. Sometimes the strongest response is walking away. And sometimes the strongest response is the advanced boundary almost no man practices. If you've stayed with me this far, you've probably noticed a pattern. Every powerful boundary we've discussed has one thing in common. It protects your self-respect before it protects the relationship. That may sound selfish at first, but in reality, it's the foundation of every healthy connection. Why? Because you cannot build genuine love on a foundation of self-abandonment. And yet, that's exactly what many men do. They slowly trade away their standards, their time, and even their identity in the hope of keeping someone interested. Ironically, that's often the very thing that causes attraction to fade. Now let's explore 2 boundaries that separate emotionally mature men from everyone else. Boundary 6. Be willing to walk away from what doesn't align with your values. This is one of the hardest lessons a man can learn. Walking away doesn't always mean ending a relationship. Sometimes it means walking away from unhealthy arguments, walking away from manipulation, walking away from repeated disrespect, walking away from situations that force you to become someone you're not. Most men fear losing the woman. Confident men fear losing themselves. Think about that for a moment. Which loss is truly greater? Imagine you're dating someone who constantly uses guilt to control your decisions. Every time you spend an evening with friends, she says, I guess I'm just not important to you. Many men immediately give in. They cancel their plans. They apologize for something they didn't do wrong. At first, it seems like they're keeping the peace. But over time, they teach the relationship that guilt is an effective form of control. Now, picture another man. He responds calmly, You are important to me. That's exactly why I'm being honest with you. Spending time with my friends doesn't mean I care about you any less. No anger, no defensiveness, no lengthy explanation, just clarity. If the manipulation continues despite respectful communication, he's prepared to leave. Not because he doesn't care, but because he cares enough about himself not to stay in an unhealthy dynamic. Most men never realize this. The willingness to walk away gives your words credibility. Without that willingness, boundaries become empty requests. People take your standards seriously only when they know you take them seriously. But here's where it gets interesting. Walking away isn't about creating fear. It's about refusing to negotiate your core values. There's a world of difference. Now let's move to the seventh boundary, one that's incredibly attractive but rarely discussed. Boundary 7. Don't reveal everything. Too soon, we live in a world that encourages instant openness. Share everything, text all day, explain every feeling, reveal every insecurity immediately. But healthy attraction grows through discovery. Imagine reading the last page of a mystery novel before you've even finished the first chapter. The excitement disappears. Relationships work similarly. This doesn't mean becoming secretive or dishonest. It means allowing emotional intimacy to develop naturally over time. Many men make the mistake of unloading their entire emotional history within the first few dates. Every heartbreak, every insecurity, every disappointment. They're hoping vulnerability will create closeness, but timing matters. Real emotional intimacy isn't created by emotional dumping. It's created by mutual trust that develops step by step. Think of trust like climbing a staircase. You don't leap to the top in one move, you earn each step. The same applies to attraction. Leave room for curiosity, leave room for discovery, leave room for anticipation. High value women are often drawn to men who remain authentic while still maintaining a sense of mystery. Not because they're hiding something, but because they understand that every meaningful relationship unfolds over time. Pay close attention because this changes everything. Confidence isn't loud. It doesn't constantly seek attention. It doesn't overshare to gain sympathy. It allows people to know you gradually. And that gradual discovery keeps emotional investment growing. But now we've arrived at the boundary you've been waiting for, the one mentioned in the title, the one that quietly determines whether a woman merely likes you or deeply respects you. Most men overlook it completely, yet once you understand it, you'll start noticing it in every successful relationship. We've covered 7 powerful boundaries that build respect, confidence, and emotional attraction, but none of them matter if you ignore the final one. Because this last boundary isn't just another rule, it's the foundation that gives every other boundary its strength. Boundary 8. Never compromise your core identity to be chosen. Read that again. Never compromise your core identity to be chosen. This is where countless men lose themselves without even realizing it. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens one small decision at a time. You stop expressing your opinions because you're afraid she'll disagree. You pretend to enjoy things you don't actually enjoy. You hide your ambitions because you don't want to seem too busy. You laugh at jokes that make you uncomfortable. You accept treatment that doesn't align with your values. Slowly, the person she first met begins to disappear. And here's the irony. The more you become someone else to keep her interested, the less authentic attraction can grow. Because she isn't connecting with the real you anymore. She's connecting with a version of you that's constantly seeking approval. Most men never realize this. Healthy attraction is built on authenticity, not performance. Think about the people you admire most. They're usually not admired because they try to please everyone. They're admired because they know who they are. They have principles, they have direction, they have integrity, and they remain true to those qualities even when it's uncomfortable. That's exactly what creates quiet confidence. Imagine two men in the same situation. A woman says, "I don't think your career goals are realistic." The first man immediately abandons his dreams just to avoid conflict. The second smiles and replies, "I respect your opinion, but this goal is important to me. I'm willing to work for it." Notice what happened. He didn't attack her. He didn't become defensive. He didn't need her approval to believe in himself. That is emotional independence. And emotional independence is one of the strongest forms of confidence a person can develop. But here's where it gets interesting. High value women don't expect perfection. They know you're human. You'll make mistakes, you'll have doubts, you'll experience difficult seasons. What they often respect most is consistency. Can they trust your character? Can they rely on your word? Can they believe that the man they see today will still be grounded in his values tomorrow? Those questions matter far more than the perfect text message or the perfect date, because attraction may spark a relationship, but respect is what sustains it. So let's bring everything together. The 8 boundaries we've explored are: never make her the center of your entire life, never chase validation, never tolerate consistent disrespect. Don't feel obligated to fix every problem. Protect your emotional composure. Be willing to walk away from unhealthy situations. Allow attraction to grow through gradual discovery. Never compromise your core identity just to be chosen. Notice something? None of these boundaries are about controlling women. They're about becoming the kind of man who naturally earns respect. And that's an important distinction. Real confidence isn't forcing someone to stay. It's knowing you'll be okay, even if they don't. Real strength isn't winning every argument. It's staying true to your values without losing your composure. Real attraction isn't built through manipulation. It's built through authenticity, emotional maturity, and mutual respect. When you live this way, something remarkable happens. You stop chasing attention. You stop fearing rejection. You stop measuring your worth by someone else's opinion. Instead, you begin attracting people who appreciate you for who you genuinely are. And those connections are almost always stronger, healthier, and more fulfilling than relationships built on pretending to be someone you're not. So here's a question for you. Which of these 8 boundaries do you think is the hardest for most men to maintain, and why? Share your answer in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective, and your experience might help someone else watching this video. If you found these insights valuable, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss future videos on female psychology, attraction, relationships, and self-improvement. Remember, the goal isn't to become a man who is chosen by everyone. The goal is to become a man who never has to betray himself just to be chosen by anyone. And once you understand that, you've already begun to stand out from the crowd.